Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lit Chick on a Mighty Blaze. I'm Jenna Paone, and I am beyond thrilled today to welcome the incomparable, incredible, legendary Adriana Trigiani.
You've lost your mind, Jenna Paone.
What can I say? I'm an Italian girl who likes books. Like you're pretty much it when it comes to.
And your hair looks beautiful.
Thank you. So does yours.
Let's cut to the important things in life.
That's the main thing, right? Do we look great? Are we here? We're a little bit late. It doesn't matter. We're having a blast. It's Friday. Who cares? You know what? In the grand scheme of things, with everything that's going on in the world right now, being a little late is no big deal. And we are going to have an incredible conversation. And on that note, I want to jump in, just give folks a quick little rundown of who you are and some of the amazing things that you've done over your illustrious career. Adriana Trigiani is the New York Times bestselling author of 20 books of fiction and nonfiction, including The Shoemaker's Wife, Tony's Wife, the Valentine series, the Big Stone Gap series, the memoir Don't Sing at the Table, and many more. Her books have been published in 38 languages around the world. She is an award-winning playwright, television writer, producer, and filmmaker. Among her screen credits, Trigiani wrote and directed the major motion picture adaptation of her debut novel, Big Stone Gap, and most recently directed Then Came You, which starred Kathy Lee Gifford and Craig Ferguson. Adriana grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, where she co-founded the Origin Project. Trigiani is proud to serve on the New York State Council of the Arts. She lives in New York City with her family. Her most recent release, The Good Left Undone, is an instant New York Times bestseller and a People Book of the Week. People calls The Good Left Undone an immersive saga, a celebration of family, and a paean to the power of storytelling. In a starred review, Library Journal says Trigiani conveys the beauty of Italy, the hardship of war, the taste of family recipes, and the enduring love of family. And Kirkus Reviews calls The Good Left Undone an epic, multi-generational love story. Trigiani's adept character portrayals deliciously describe settings, and carefully considered details build momentum and intrigue from beginning to end. Adriana, thank you so much for being here. You are just absolutely wonderful. We love you so much here at A Mighty Blaze.
Love you, Bella Jenna.
We are just so thrilled to have you. And I have to say, I really, as reading this book over this past week, I think it might be your best yet. And that's saying something in the large volume of contributions you've made to the literary and artistic world. There is something special about this book. And I think there's something special about this book in this time. It's one of those things where what's going on in the world is reflected on the page in a different time and gives us sort of a roadmap forward of how to deal and a way to maybe get a little grace in these difficult and challenging moments that we're experiencing. Can you tell us a little bit, just a brief overview of the novel and what inspired you to write it?
Well, you know, when you go to write a novel, I have a lot of ideas, and if I could turn this camera around, you'd see a bunch of notebooks here. And I'm not talking like 2 or 3. I'm talking from the ceiling to the floor, all around the room.
Yep.
And I wanted to, after a visit to the Vatican, I wanted to understand the history of the Vatican Museum and the history of the gems, the gem cutting. Because those gem cuttings, the gems went all over the world. Do you have a diamond, Jenna? Do you wear a diamond?
I do.
Okay, well, that's a good. That's a halo diamond.
So I have, full disclosure, I have a jeweler in the family, and
okay, so this book was totally, it was all home weight, the brooding wheel, everything. Well,
it's good to have a diamond person in the family. It's a good thing.
Well, first of all, because at dinner they can go like this, and look at it through their loop, which is. I know a mother-in-law that has a loop on her keychain because when she married off her daughters, she wanted to check the diamonds as they got. I mean, really, okay, this is good. Yeah, you can marry him. But I wanted to write about gem cutters at the Vatican, but there was a bigger looming story to tell, which is something that I discovered it came in really in phases. So the book really started to be written 28 years ago, 27, 28. I can never do the math on this stuff, but so it was a slow burn as I'm writing other books.
Yep.
As I'm writing other books. The Shoemaker's Wife was the same thing, except it went back to like 1981 when I interviewed my grandmother when I was in college. So it went way back. Mm-hmm. So there's a wonderful you sort of, as a writer, take a needle to the nerve. And as these ideas came in, Jenna, it evolved. So I was missing both my grandmothers and my mother. And I wanted to write an intergenerational story with a granddaughter. And sometimes I think a little bit, Anina's 25, I'm way past that, but I could relate to her.
Yes.
Her development as an artist, and a person, and a human being, and a woman who was in love, you know. So you're going to sort of relate to all that. And I wanted to write about what you leave behind.
Yeah.
And the grandmother in this story, Matilda, tells the story, and it goes in and out of the past, I think, in a very seamless, artful way.
It does. It really
back
is.
me up on that.
Yeah, 100%.
And the beauty of COVID was that I had this year to cut, shape, think. I like that scene better than this scene. I'm going to move this way. Yep. So what you get here, and you compliment me deeply when you say it's the best one, because when I have a book come out, that's what I want to hear.
Of course.
Because I'm trying to get better each time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm just trying for you, the reader, to bring you in, to connect, and to make it better, and to tell the story. So Matilda Cabrelli-Raffo thinks she's done a terrible job relaying the family story. And so this is the book where she's going to do it. This is the time. She sees her time running out, even though she looks good and nobody thinks she's going anywhere. It doesn't matter to her. It's her 81st birthday, and then things aren't where they should be, and she wants to set it straight.
I love it, and it really takes us through, through so many decades. We have, so for those of you who haven't read it yet, without any spoilers, so we're in really like 3 timelines here. We're in the modern day where Matilda is aging and realizing maybe her time is running out, and she is really forming a connection with her granddaughter Anina, and telling the family story. Then we have Matilda's mother's story, Domenica, and her story through early pre-world, before
World War II. Yeah, she's a kid then. Yeah, she's born in 1910.
And you really delve into this part of history, which is not unknown, but I would say one of the less referenced parts of World War II.
Jenna, my British publishers never heard the story.
That's like they
grew up there. I mean, it's like, are you kidding me? You never heard this story, and so we don't teach everything. Well, first of all, you just have to know off the top of the entire story here. 50% of history is not recorded because women are in it. 100%. And I don't want to hear about Amelia Earhart. She got lost over an ocean. What happened to her? I'm talking about your family line, the listener, and really what I was going for here was to encourage people to look at and write down your family story, because if we don't do it, it will not get done and it will be lost to the ages. And what's interesting, I thought this was a contemporary novel. Mm-hmm. And then when I finished it, they said, "Oh, it's historical fiction." And I went, "Okay, well, you could call it, a mushroom in a hat. I don't care."
Yeah.
But I was fascinated by that, because I felt it was so much she was imparting this and dramatizing it for her granddaughter.
And that's so important. And that's something that's reflected in all of your books, is the importance of family and the importance of kind of knowing where you come from and what your history is.
So and where the family fits in the history of the world.
Exactly.
So the landscape of this is, I had no idea there were Italian Scots. I knew there were a few, but there's an actual entire robust, beautiful community there that was absolutely, they were devastated by what happened during World War II. Mm-hmm. It's like we, the Italian Americans, we should just set everybody up with this. Prior to World War I, the biggest employer in Italy was the Vatican.
Yep.
After World War II, jewelers like the Paone family. How do you say your name? I say Paone.
It's Paone, but it's Paone because America.
It's a Bayonne.
It's Paone because of America. Like, let's be honest. And we actually have they say
Bonicelli on the Iron Range, and it's Bonicelli.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, we're just like totally bastardized over here. It's Paone, even though it should be Paone, and it's actually supposed to be Pavone or something like that. I don't know, but it's
a family of dancers.
Yeah,
With the jewelry business, you can back me up on this because your family's in it. after World War II became quite prosperous for the
Yes.
Italian gem cutters and setters. There's the Montequilla family up in Connecticut. Their great grandfather invented the loop on the earring, patented in the United States and Italy. But the Chinese just said it's not patented here, and they reproduced it in mass. But that's that beautiful wire loop.
Yep. Yep. Love it.
So all the Italians were sharing this, and in fact, even in the costume business of Trifari and all the factories are in Rhode Island.
Yep.
There's a woman now named Lauren Hope out of Rhode Island. She was Southern.
Yep.
And she went up, and I should have worn a piece of hers today. But anyway, the old settings and ways are coming back big time now. Your ring is fascinating to me because it's the halo effect, which is very much in the vein of the way stones were set in ancient India.
Yep. And I love it. And clearly, I mean, listening to you, and it's so clear from this novel and all your books, what a lover of history you are and how deep you go. I mean, you go so deep in these books, especially in this one. I always feel like I'm really experiencing the history. Like I tend to get totally lost in your books and feel like I'm in that place. Like you take me out of my current situation and put me really in the situation of the book, which I think is what all of the best authors do. What is your research process like? Like, what was it like? How do you build all that history? Because you also do it in a way that doesn't sacrifice story, that doesn't leave us, I'm never bored with the details. I'm always fascinated and I want to learn more. So how do you as an author go, what's your process like for learning about the subject that you're going to write about and then incorporating that into narrative? How do you
First of all, there's two things that happen with research.
Yep.
One is the methodical research that goes into knowing what I need. Mm-hmm. And I hire my best friend in Spokane, Washington, Cynthia Olson, who happens to be an attorney. And she's not doing that anymore. And she said, I'll do your research. And she's brilliant at it. She was a history major.
That's awesome.
So look around your life for a history major. That's the first clue. So that's the methodical research. That's what are the facts of this situation? Yep. And in this particular situation that echoes, and why you're saying there's the chimes at midnight with this in the present is because of the role of the immigrant. 100%. Every country in the world is suffused with immigration.
Absolutely.
Tradition cannot exist, tradition only exists in a state of change. But yes, immigrants are others, yes. Okay? We, the Italian Americans, were considered brown before World War II.
100%, absolutely.
Brown. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. When you see what happened in Texas and you look at those beautiful people, think were that your great-grandparents were that, grandparents, your parents sometimes often.
Yeah.
So it can't exist in any other way. And the immigrant is the entity in tradition that suffuses it with energy, passion, and change to elevate what currently exists or what did exist in the past. Never forget it. Never forget it. Immigrant was a word of honor in my home when I was growing up.
Absolutely.
A word of honor.
Same.
We must embrace that because this is our treasure. And people go, we got to go back. No, you move forward enlightened.
Oh, I love it.
I love it. Open and full of love. And the craftsmanship and the quality will only get better. It will surpass its highest level.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. And it's so amazing how immediate this book is right now. I mean, you're telling this
it's the ultimate summer read because it takes you through, well, really it does. Yeah. I'm not going to tell you that this is light and fluffy.
It's not.
You're going to laugh, but you are also going to cry. And you're going to think about your legacy as a human being on this planet, which was my goal.
Yes.
If I had a super goal, it was to say, who am I? Why was I born? And what am I leaving behind that matters?
Yeah.
Jewelry's the perfect thing because usually it's the most valuable thing we own.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have a painting or you don't have a collection of books or you have that. And you're going to pass that down to your child or to your niece or your nephew or whoever.
I'm a big jewelry person because it does last. You're
smart because it lasts. And
it's an heirloom.
It
And it's
has
something
properties.
it
Yes.
has, yeah, and it's amazing. I love the connection between the jewelry in Matilda's life and her own stories, and how she leaves behind both pieces of herself, physical and emotional,
That's
for
right.
those that are left after she is gone. And that idea that you said of, how do you live a good life? I feel like that's really central, not just to this book, but to all of your books. This idea of how do you live a good life? How do you find your purpose? How do you do what you can do regardless of the tragedy and the unexpected moments? How do you find grace, which I feel like figures
Yeah.
in so much of your books? What has that been like? Is that a personal quest that you're on, in that you end up then writing about in a way for you to figure that out for yourself? Is that something that you're always hoping, clearly it is, that you're always hoping for your readers to learn when they pick up one of your books? Like, how do I, how do I during whatever time I have here, do something meaningful, even if that meaningful thing, it seems small? um what's your, is that a have you always had that in your mind as like an overarching goal, or did that sort of emerge over time with all of your books, and then you realized, oh, this is what I'm writing about? Or did
No,
you kind of?
you know what? You know what? Really, truthfully, Jenna, it's been there from the first sentence, the first poem I wrote.
Yeah,
I'm not
I'm not.
writing them for me. I always
Yeah,
found that fascinating. Write what you know. Okay. But the imagination is limitless.
yeah.
Your soul itself is limitless.
Hmm.
Why would I limit it?
Yeah,
Why
I
would I
love.
limit it to what I know?
Yeah,
I
I
have to
love.
explore the unknown. And I have
Mm,
to, I mean, that's very Italian in a certain way.
yeah,
The very things the things that I care about are earning my salvation in the eternal.
yeah.
Now, the earthly stuff is really hard for me. I'm very I'm very impatient. I'm fear
Hmm.
based.
Hmm. Me too.
I'm always worried about things. I'm
Oh yeah,
trying to change. I'm trying Jenna to change.
aren't we all?
But you know when you grow up, you interpret what's happening around you in a particular fashion.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I don't want to break it into two groups, but I could. Those that are fear based and those that are not fear based.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I, 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 people think I'm fearless a lot because I do what I want to do with my life.
Yeah,
But I saw one important example of a person who, in his attempt to be selfless, did not express himself.
interesting.
And I thought, that ain't good.
Mm,
That ain't good.
yeah.
It wasn't good for him. It wasn't good
Yep.
for me to observe it. And
Mhm.
it galvanized me as a middle child in a big Italian Catholic family to say, what are my talents?
Yeah.
What are they
Yes.
actually? What are my talents? What do I see in the world that it could be useful?
Yes.
And then, I'm a dramatist. I began as a playwright and then I wrote television
Yep.
and I did, uh, and I enjoyed it.
Hmm.
But I had a yearning and a longing in my 20s and early 30s to say, oh, I should be more specific about what I'm writing about
Mm.
and get these stories down. And I would spend, many weekends with my grandmothers and summers and so on. And I had a lot of material.
Clearly.
And
Yeah.
I look at it like every life is a story.
Hmm.
Now that
Absolutely.
doesn't mean every life is fascinating
Yep.
to the world, but I think they are fascinating.
Yeah.
So that's why my stories take on these patinas and layers, because as I research, I find things. Let me give you a small example because nobody really talks about this.
Yeah. Yeah. Please
Okay,
do.
so this woman, Matilda, is going to set the record straight. You find out that her father was Scottish. He dies and I'm not ruining anything, but
Yep.
they
Yep.
move back to the village when she's 5 and she reignites all her relationships in the village and stays there for the rest of her days.
Hmm. And she
But the
becomes.
people don't even talk about it anymore. They don't talk about him or what her circumstances were, because get ready. And Jenna, if I arced this, I could not have arced this fictionally.
Yeah.
My researcher, Cynthia, found this whole thing about families like yours and mine, that if they become prosperous, the thread of the family story is lost because prosperity becomes what you hold on to. You don't hold on to the past and the craftsmanship and the connections. You hold on to that new thing called dough, money, prosperity, cash. And in families then becomes this delicious, damaging brew of this one did better than that one, who did better than that one, who did it. Look at her. Look at her what she did.
Yeah.
And the most that I found this, the most rancor is in my beloved Italian American community. I'm glad this is vodka. Because they don't want to trust. They don't want to trust that one of their own could exceed. If Lady Gaga had to exceed on the Italian American community, it would be slightly robust. She has a worldwide audience.
Yeah.
They're not going to support her.
Yeah.
And people can write in and tell us, but they're not going to. She's on her own. But that's all right because she's made of something, you see. Yeah. And that's the other part of our legacy that's really fabulous is we are made of something. We know how to work.
Absolutely.
And when we lose that, I mean, that's why people love the mobster stories, which, by the way, I don't do.
Yeah. Stay away from that era.
Well, I don't stay away from it. I could do it. But why am I going to elevate a criminal element when there's the rest of this to elevate over 20 and hopefully 50 books that I'll write?
And
why would I do that? Why would I do that? They begged me to write a mob book. And listen, I'm not saying I won't.
Yeah.
I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility.
I don't
want to put that out there.
Okay? I do feel that what you do in your books is you honor the, kind of the sacredness of living a life, like living not a simple life, but a life that is tied to perhaps like simple values of
La dolce vita.
Yeah. Hard work, purpose, and then also pleasure, which is why your books are such sensorial experiences. I mean, you celebrate in a way that I think Italians do, La dolce vita, the good life. And that's why, there's always these lush descriptions and there's beautiful food.
Yeah, and if you don't like descriptions, you really shouldn't pick up my books.
Yeah.
And if you don't like a sensual experience, don't pick up my books.
Exactly.
If you don't want a story that peels like an onion, don't pick up my books.
Yep.
But if you want to enter a world and get lost in it, pick up my books.
100%. Your books are always like a vacation.
And if by the end you want to be empowered to do your own thing, pick up my books.
I love it.
Pick them up. Pick them up. Read them. I don't care how you read them. Yeah. And if your library within the sound of my voice, if there's a 3-month waiting list there is in Bay Ridge, I've got to send them books. I have to remember to tell Andrea. I'll send books. I want you to read them.
Yeah.
And I want you to share them. Read them, share them, believe them, move them around.
I love that. That's again, the idea of storytelling and passing it on. And clearly you have such a strong legacy of storytelling that has been passed on to you.
Well, look at Father's Day. This is a Father's Day read. It is. Yeah. It is. The men in this book are magnificent.
They are. And so are the women.
But for the most part, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
And not only wonderful, they are struggling and interesting and complex and are there for their women.
Yep. Absolutely.
Look what Linda Zarrett's saying here.
And it's listening. Oh, I love this.
Thank you, Linda Zarrett. I love her.
So great. The representation of the family dynamics was so honest and true, making both stories equally. Yes, I love how you embrace both the good notes and the bad notes. Like with family, there's no perfect. Like there's these deep rifts over time, and there's complicated things.
The brother and sister didn't speak.
They didn't speak,
and like from her. Then she tried to give it back, and this stuff goes on in families all the time because when people are born into and this family's fairly large. When you're in a big family, people are just fighting to be heard, fighting to be recognized, and sometimes they do the wrong thing to get recognized. I mean, they'll just do anything to just, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I love it.
And I love all that in a family dynamic, but that's true in our Latina communities. It's true in our African-American communities. I mean, my friend Daniel Black, everybody should read his book. My friend Daniel Black described, how the African-American community, and Andre Leon Talley backed this up, and others, Nick Stone. I mean, the families are created in ways that are different and interesting, and we're about survival.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of every culture, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, especially the one we're living in right now. I mean, this is the thing, is we just relive the history over and over and over. And if we can't somehow learn from it and change and become more accepting and less, less fear-based, as you said, then we're kind of doomed for the history to continue to repeat, which is what we're experiencing right now. Changing gears a little bit, just because I don't want to. Adriana's got we've got a short window.
I know, today. But I want you to just keep going because I'm here now and I have on the lipstick.
Yeah. She's here. She's got it.
And it's Friday, and this is not a lipstick day.
It's true. I know. You are a true Renaissance woman. I mean, when it comes
to... Is that what you think, Jenna?
I do. I really do.
Okay, I don't think so, but okay, go ahead.
I do, and I'm so appreciative because as somebody who is also somebody who delves in a lot of different creative disciplines, I have always been told my whole life to just focus on one thing. And
all right. And you know what the trick is? Yeah. They're right and you're right. Yep. They are correct and you are correct to do a lot of things, and they're correct to do one thing. You do one thing well at a time, and you'll get everything done.
Oh, I love that.
I'm going to say it again. When I direct a movie, I'm not writing a book. I'm directing a movie. When I'm writing a screenplay, I'm not writing a book. When I'm writing a book, I'm writing a book.
Yes.
When I'm making dinner, I'm making one thing at a time. Women rule the world and take no credit, fascinating to me, in history. We are capable of doing more than one thing at a time. Now, I love my husband, and he is a brilliant man. But if I send him to the grocery store for 5 things, I'm lucky if 2 come home. So now I've learned half and half, just the stick of butter.
Yep, just one
thing. But we as women, it's how we can have lots of kids. It's how we can have lots of friends. It's how we can be in the garden club and navigate. It's how at work, we're the ones who take on the extra hours. Right, throw it at me. I can do it.
Yeah. Adriana, is there anything that you haven't tried yet that you want to still try?
Well, there's a couple things.
Can you tell us a few?
I find myself writing about them, so I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
I was lying in bed the other night because this is a really great question to ask yourself, no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. And I always say this to teachers, educators, nurses, caregivers. I say to them, you're doing the penultimate work on the planet. We entrust our intellectual well-being to our educators and teachers.
Yes.
But now look what we entrust them with. The safety of our children.
I know.
When I travel the country, and listen, I don't go to fancy places, okay? I go to places where the hard life is being lived, where the challenges are. Mm-hmm. I grew up that way. I understand it. I'm comfortable in it. And come with me. That's what I'm going to say. There's my home state, a guy won the governorship, and I don't talk politics, but I'm just going to say, he said the parents should be empowered to teach, not the teachers. That the teachers are giving bad books out and this and that. And I became enraged about this because the teacher, the undermining of the American educator must stop. We don't pay them enough. Yep. My mother was a librarian. I know from whence I speak. Mm-hmm. She had to die before I understood what my mother created at the University of Notre Dame. She had to die before the history was told. She created the architecture library. My petite, lovely, elegant, gorgeous mother in her 20s or early 20s created the architecture library at the University of Notre Dame that got them accredited. The daughter of an Italian immigrant, both. Her brother was a basketball star. Her twin sister was an educator and a librarian. She did the science library. Eventually was a librarian at WashU in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. I tell you this, not to brag.
No.
Not to brag, But my mother never told us.
Yeah. I know it's
now weirdly,
yeah.
I inherited something from her. A passion to read.
Yes. And to write. And clearly you also
Italian Americans don't buy books, Jenna. They don't buy them. Now, you want me to bring the numbers out? I can bring the numbers out. I have spent 22 years softening the ground with my paisans. We talk a good game about supporting each other, but we don't.
Fascinating.
We do not. Oh, we'll watch The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll roll The Godfather out as the penultimate. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I love Mario Puzo and I love Francis Ford Coppola. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying to you, there's more to this story, isn't there?
Do you think that's because those are inherently like male-centered as opposed to
no,
I
don't.
No, you don't. You just think it's like, because I feel like
you're having our people, Jenna, a specificity, which is don't put your business in the street. Lisa Scottolini and I don't subscribe to that tradition.
Yeah.
And I can keep naming people. Helen Berolini, I can go back in time and in fact have talked about this extensively, about the shoulders upon which we stand.
Yeah.
We don't give the women any credit in our families, so why are they going to get credit in the world?
That's what I mean. Like, because I feel like you honor the matriarchal lineage and the matriarchal center of the family, right? I mean, really, when you think about it, Italian.
Well, I'm really honoring you.
Like,
I'm honoring productive, creative, inventive survivors.
Well, thank you.
My grandmothers. Look, I'm going to tilt this up so you can see this. Oh, look, here comes Andrea.
She's like,
Andrea's so over me. It's not even funny. Do you see that? What's hanging on over behind my desk?
Yolanda.
You see what that says? It says the Yolanda Manufacturing Company. That is the sign from my grandmother's blouse mill that she and my grandfather opened in 1942. The Yolanda Manufacturing Company. Immigrant is a word of honor. Knock it off. When you talk about our brown brothers and sisters, that they're dirty and lazy and this and that, that is propaganda. And I paid thousands of dollars that I did not freaking need to do to put it in this book, page 252. Open your hymnals.
Yep. I know. You should see all the pages that I have turned down.
It makes me sick that I had to pay to print this. It sickens me. In the Daily Mirror. But, oh gosh, well, here. I didn't know how to do this. Okay. But I wanted you to have it so you could understand that Mussolini, that crackpot, what a nut and a dangerous, diabolical son of a bee. Anyway, and he didn't materialize overnight. He had been softening the ground for 25 years. Now, let me say this because this is important. Well, Adriana, what are you talking about propaganda? It's why Winston Churchill made a very bad decision. 11 years prior to 1939, Italians began to emigrate all over the world to get jobs. From about 1890 to 1913 was the biggest. But I spoke to somebody yesterday whose parents emigrated in the 50s. There's certain Italian groups that have done it that way too. And I don't want to forget the Ethiopian Italians because, yes, there are Black Italians. Yes, there are. And I met them. And they're in my book.
They're in your book.
So 2 weeks ago at O'Hare, the man that checked my numbers on my bag, I looked at his name and I said, "You Ethiopian?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Do you know about the Ethiopian Italians?" And he said, "My father's an Ethiopian Italian. That's where an anchor woman in Ohio, gorgeous Black woman, said, I'm going to visit my family in Italy." Get with it, people. Get with it. And when they talk about the people on the borders, this is the propaganda. 11 years in the UK, which is why they could ship away their neighbors, why they could ship them off the island. Winston Churchill panicked. He's on an island. It's the war. They're crawling the seas, the Nazis. He's in trouble.
Yep.
And he loved the Italians. And I cut 300 pages from the book, but suffice it to say, he went to Italy, France, Germany, all the time and painted. He was a painter.
Yep.
And when Mussolini declared war on June 4th, 1940, against England, when he did that, I love my jazz Phillips. Anyway, when they did that, he didn't know what to do because the Italians were in the service industry. We were doing the fish and chips in Scotland. We were doing the gelato. We were doing the pizza. People say fish and chips is English. No, it isn't. Ever heard of calamari?
Yeah.
That's us, the Italian Scots.
Yep.
So all over the world, we existed. We are. Now, we hadn't been to Australia yet, but when they imprisoned us in World War II and sent us there, that opened the floodgates.
Yes.
But in this particular story, in this particular family, a tragedy happened.
Yes.
Now, I wish I could beam Cynthia in because what we discovered, we had to sort through this garbage of propaganda. We had to sort through it because to find the truth. I went in through the dead and studied the family. This took forever to figure out what happened here. And here's what happened. So they put this propaganda in the newspaper. Does this sound familiar? They're taking our jobs. They're ruining, they're criminals. They're rapists and terrorists. They're brown. They're coming here for a free ride. How dare you say things like that? How dare you? It incenses me because you're here and I'm here because of who we came from. And they put up with that crap for 3 generations, okay? So you wouldn't have to.
Absolutely.
So
and now we're doing it. Now people are doing it.
How soon we forget when the money's flowing. Oh boy, do we forget. And that's the other point of this book.
Absolutely.
Prosperity will kill you.
Adriana, your book is incredible. You are incredible. I mean, your passion clearly shows itself on every page. And it's so important to write these books that not only are beautiful, immersive reads, but really, really reflect the moment we're in and cause us to question what we're doing as a society now, because we haven't come that far when you read a book like this and you realize that we're dealing with all this.
We keep repeating it because it's subterfuge.
Yeah.
It's like, ooh, the Italians.
Yeah.
Hey, I grew up with it. I get it.
Yeah.
To be other, it was never for me an unpleasant thing. It was an illuminating thing. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Now, see, that's where they underestimate you. That's where you get them. You get them with excellence, but your people have to support you.
Yeah.
Look, I love Caroline Levitt and A Mighty Blaze, and I love you, and I love you girls. I mean, you're in there slogging. I mean, you are doing it.
We're trying.
I do the same thing you do. I bring authors on now. My stuff is fiction and nonfiction, and it's one-on-one conversation. Like this, but a little different. Yeah. There can't be enough of us, by the way.
Yeah.
But women are crafty, and we took to the airwaves, and we chose Facebook for very obvious reasons. It's free, and it reaches people. So, in supporting you, we support independent bookstores.
Absolutely.
We support libraries.
Yep.
We support one another in book clubs. I went to the best book club the other night in Brooklyn, Amanda DiCerno's book club. I never ate like that or had such a ball talking about this book. We love our local indies because they are cultural centers in our communities, particularly our small communities.
Absolutely.
So while you're tempted sometimes to maybe click and send, and I'm not against that because whatever gets it into your hands to me, but give yourself a little bit of a variety.
Absolutely.
Do the indie, like when, I've got a bunch of weddings coming up. You know what I'm giving?
What are you
giving? I give cookbooks.
Love it. That's a great gift. That's a great gift for a new couple.
I give muffins, dish towels. I give always a book though. When a baby's born, a book.
Yep.
When somebody's engaged to be married,
Mhm.
when you go to a shower,
Yep.
you can have a field day with it.
Yeah.
To someone who's struggling, give them Susan Cain's novel To Elevate. Give them, for the price of a cup of coffee and a donut, you can inspire someone. And I know you have to let me go, but I want to say this, and I want to say this about Texas.
Yes.
There are two forces on this earth:
Mm-hmm.
creativity and destruction.
Amen. Amen.
And we know that our Creator is behind the creativity.
Yep.
I don't invent this.
Yeah.
I just listen.
You transcribe it. You're the conduit.
The wire.
It's so interesting. Like, I feel the same way about creativity, that I'm just trying to write it down. I'm trying to listen to that voice and write it down.
We need your books. We need them. We need your stories, your
like,
books, and your thoughts. Because why? Why is it important for a nurse to pick this book up? It's important for a nurse to pick this up because her profession is honored in here.
It's honored. Exactly.
It's important for a teacher to pick this up.
Yep.
Because you are honored within.
Absolutely.
And enough with the crazy talk against teachers. Stop it. They love what they do, and they do it for free. Frankly, I'm in that category. I love it so much, I would do it for free, but I'm in business with a publisher. Yeah. And I must produce for them. Because without them, it isn't this. I don't get my brilliant editor and my brilliant design, Vianne, who designed this, who's a Vietnamese American. And I wouldn't get it from Maya Zeev. I wouldn't get it from Ivan Held and Christine Ball. I could keep talking here. It's a team.
I love it.
It's a team. And for the price of a lunch, you can have this in your home, and it can change you, because it's changing the way we look at things and who we are and what we want. What we want. So as to the destruction, we don't even have to give it airspace here.
No.
But that's the work of a diabolical evil.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
And yes, we must figure out how to first get this situation under control.
Yep.
If you wish, you can go. I don't do politics. Listen, the reason the country split, my own family split. Mm-hmm. Two sides.
Yeah.
Okay? Sometimes three.
Yeah, there's often the three.
I want to pose this question to anybody within the sound of my voice. If your kitchen table is split, how would the country not be split? If at work your book group is split, how's the country not going to? How is the world, the global world, not going to be split? And what people do, this is the rise of propaganda. And I'm saying this on behalf of everything I listen to, because I know things. I live in New York. I hear things. I know things. Be very careful. Mm-hmm. Not one side or the other. Both sides. Challenge them. And I mean, you can almost write the fall of Rome with the demise of the small town newspaper. They were truth tellers and great writers, and they were local. Listen. I don't have to sell it. The great Edna Ferber, the Pulitzer, she won the Oscar. She won everything. Edna Ferber, giant showboat, began her career at her small town newspaper. That's where she learned how to write. Study H.L. Mencken. Study these people. Read them. Don't believe me? Don't believe me? Go to the library. Get a group together. Talk about it. Empower yourself with the knowledge of the truth. Challenge your own feelings about things and challenge the truth that you are currently believing. Propaganda, take it from me, it took us 8 years to pull it apart. And when we presented this novel, in the country where it happened, they didn't know it. But you know who knew it? You know who knew the story? The Italian Scots, because they lost their grandparents and they lost their fathers and their uncles and their great uncles. And some people in their 20s say, oh, I lost my great great grandfather, or I lost my great grandfather there. We're not making this up. But why aren't the immigrant stories then elevated and told? And I will include in that my Ethiopian Italian storyline and my Jewish Italian storyline.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really cover the gamut.
I do, because it was true.
Right.
In other words, the landscape was there. The Jewish gem cutters in Venice were tight with the Italian Catholic ones in Lucca.
Yep.
So I presented that to you as a reader in this fictional landscape.
You're amazing, Adriana. Like, I mean, I can't even, you've just given us, like, I feel like you've just given us, the secret to life, and like the secret to great art, and the secret to maybe how we heal this broken world that we're in, which is to think critically, to listen, to learn our own stories, to learn other people's stories, and somehow find a way to come to the table and talk with each other.
Listen, you know, Jenna, I've offered this, and I'm going to offer it to a mighty blaze, okay?
Yeah.
I have, for years, been going around doing workshops about how to write your family memoir.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we do it here. I don't know. Let's think about it, or we do a live event.
Oh, I love
a library near us.
Oh, I love it.
Or at a Barnes and Noble near us, or at a great indie near us.
I love it. I've got
one of our great Kenny's or Bookmark Shop or wherever we want to go. Yeah. And we begin this process.
Yeah.
We begin the process of and I have the and I help set you up, and I help guide you into it. The most valuable document I own is the woman whose sign is over my head here. We begged her and begged her and begged her to write down her story.
Oh.
And in a Ben Franklin flip pad that she had by the phone, the last 2 pages in her perfect penmanship, in 2 pages, wrote a document that is an unforgettable document in my family history, which is her story, which begins when she's born and ends on the morning my grandfather dies on March 15th, 1968 at 7:00 in the morning. We got to do it.
I love that. Yes, we are. I think everybody here would sign up for that. I think everybody would love it. And, you know, you've been so incredible. I don't want to keep you any longer. You're such a busy woman.
I thought Adriana was crying. Adriana's got a little mascara in her eye. She was like this. And I was like, are you crying? What is this, sad?
I might cry.
She said, I'm so touched.
Adriana, thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to let you go because you've been so generous with your time. Thank you to everyone for joining us here. And, like, I don't know, let's get an Adriana Trigiani. Let's get this thing going.
Why don't we, Jenna? It doesn't have to be big. It can be what it is. But you know what? Creativity, not destruction.
I love it.
To build up, not to tear down.
100%.
Because, you know, the truth lives in harmony. The truth lives in beauty.
Yep.
The truth lives in the story. It lives there.
Agreed. Absolutely. Cannot think of a better way to end this. There's no better way to end this. I'm not even going to try. Creativity, not destruction.
Oh, your diamond again, please.
The truth lives in
We went on a hunt to find my
jewelry.
Shout
out to Peter Sousa Jewelers, and shout out to Peter Sousa Jewelers for my beautiful ring and my earrings, and everything that I wear is from that now.
Look how beautiful crafted that is.
They do a great job. They do a beautiful job. If you're local to Boston, which is where I am, they're in the Diamond.
Well, you got the Italian American bookstore, I Am Books.
Yes, we do.
They want me to come, but I can't come up for 4 people.
Yeah, well, let's figure it out.
You get me a few hundred and I'm coming.
Let's talk, honey. I think I can get you a few hundred.
You think you can?
I think I can.
Because I'll come for that. And I'll bring guests.
Guys, we got to do this. Everybody come to Boston. We're getting Adriana. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for this incredible book. Please support your local indies and pick up the Good Left Done. And let's all learn a little more about our own history and some history, the history of people who are a little different than ours. And maybe we can move forward a little bit.
Because once we were the other.
Yes. We're all the other at some point.
And
so we might as well.
What irritates me is to bite the hand that feeds us. Let's not bite the hand that feeds us. Let's feed the hand that fed us.
Oh, I love it. You feed us, Adriana. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you, Caroline and everybody. You know, I love her.
Caroline Levitt and Jenna Blum, our founders who have made this community possible. Thank you all for being
here, ladies.
Part of this. We will see you next time on A Lit Chick on a Mighty Blend.
Love you. Bye, everybody.